Hello.
One, one, two,
Ta-da!
1, 2.
Oh, so many nice people today. Thank you all for your presentation. It was really good. And we have a lot of questions, so let's start.
Exciting.
Anton, the first
Yes.
question is for you. I think it's quite general about Ktor. What other applications can we build with Ktor?
Ktor is designed for building small HTTP apps, mostly the server side of it. And as we have Ktor for the client side as well, it's the Ktor HTTP client. Then it's very popular in mobile development for Android and iOS projects.
Okay, thank you. And one more question about Ktor. How much more difficult is to find Ktor+Kotlin developers compared to Spring plus Java, in your opinion?
Well, I think 20 times is the difference.
Well, I agree with you, yeah. It's like compare, I don't know, something soft and something wet, maybe.
Java is the #1 language for backend development. Kotlin is a runner-up, pretty young language compared to Java. Of course, there's much less developers, though it's easy to learn for a Java developer. And Ktor compared to Spring, of course, Spring is the elephant in the room, and Ktor is just a small micro framework, which is not even known in Java ecosystem. It's well known in Kotlin for Kotlin developers, but not for average Java developers, of course.
Okay, thank you, Anton. The next question is for Adam. Adam, could you please tell how will an evergreen model affect business?
It already affects business. I would say without the stability of Java, it would be over. I would say Java is a phenomenon because how old is Java? More than 25 years, and it's still going strong. And this is only possible because, all the banks, IBM back then, and all the large companies said, okay, we use Java because it's stable. And the same is true, for instance, I don't like to mention any JavaScript frameworks, but I get lots of contracts because the company is already sick to migrate from one JavaScript frameworks to another, just for fun. And I would say if we are a little bit more reasonable, just picking for the boring stuff standards, and focus on innovation, then this is what companies actually like. This is why what I'm doing as a consultant actually.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And the next one is about pain, I think. How can I persuade my colleagues to adopt the evergreen approach?
I mean, I don't do it. So usually people come to me, but you cannot convince developers. This is like, religious wars. If I go to Anton and say, Ktor is too big, just pick, no Tor or whatever. So we'll argue the entire night, and tomorrow everyone will do their own thing. So I would say it is impossible to convince developers because this is like religious wars, So this is more interesting for managers, actually, I would say. And for me, this is not. I don't like to use the shiny best things. It should be good enough. And the more you rely on standards, the more developers you will find who actually who are willing, to learn it. And for instance, Kotlin. I think Anton likes Kotlin, but I'm a consultant and I'm a small one. I'm a singleton, one-man show. But if I would, for instance, introduce probably Kotlin in a project, what happens immediately? I get from another developer who would say, I don't like Kotlin, I would like to use Scala. And then the other one would say, Scala is nice, but Groovy was even better. And then we spend, 5 meetings just arguing which is the best possible language, to implement Hello World or CRUD. So if I'm just, say, okay, we would just use the minimalistic possible things, like just Java 17, which is LTS, so no experimentation. And then we can, be more productive for day one, and then we can still migrate to Kotlin or whatever they like. But I would always wait for business requirements. So this is because I spend too much time in meetings just arguing. I don't know, Anton and what is the gentleman Dmitry? Now I saw your name. I cannot read the name of Anton because I'm Anton. Actually, Achtoch, we're German, but I know Anton is Anton.
It is a bit simplified because it's not Cyrillic.
Why? And Dmitry, but you are not Cyrillic, and Anton is Cyrillic. What's wrong with And I'm also not Cyrillic right now.
Oops.
No problem. No problem. I didn't want it. It's just as an observation.
We were trying to fix it before the Q&A, but it seems that something didn't really work out well.
Yeah, I had a tech briefing with George, and I asked you, George, these are Russian names? And no, my name is Gosha, I think. I was like, oh, okay, now I see, Anton. So this I ask you, are you really Anton? So this is what I mean. It should be good enough. And I know what to remember. It seems like you are spending lots of time with Java. At the beginning, at Java JDK 1.1, I spent all the time, to argue what is the best IDE. Remember that?
Yeah,
endless stories about IDEs.
I remember doing a joint talk with you and Max at Java 1 about the same thing.
Okay, the same. You see, this was later, but at the beginning in projects, this was fun at Java 1. But at the beginning, and by the way, I used I think IntelliJ used from also at least 2000. So at the very beginning, I like the look and feel, and the next story was logging frameworks. Endless discussion about logging framework, which is completely pointless. So I'm like, okay, I really don't care how you concatenate the strings, leave me alone, and still is not unsolved. Then we're caching frameworks, and now we have languages, which is fine, but we always have to discuss about something, and this is a little bit boring,
Okay, thank you, Adam. In general, as far as I understand, we don't need to persuade our colleagues because it's a religion war.
Mission impossible.
Yeah, and guys, Anton, do you agree with that about trying to persuade somebody and adopt some frameworks or maybe Java distributions and so on?
Yes, I totally agree with that. The choice is like when people choose something, they choose it emotionally, and they're almost never rational. So I stopped pursuing people. I'm just trying to teach them if they want.
Maybe we should be more brutal, the Russian method, like, I don't know whether it's possible, then it will work. It's like, you have to use Kotlin, period.
It's like a stereotype about
this could
Russian
work,
people.
Kotlin or fired, done. No discussion. This could work. But if you start to discuss, no way.
Well, I believe that the Russian people are not so brutal. Dmitry, as a Russian man, what do you think about it?
About which part?
Should we be more brutal in persuading our colleagues?
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he likes a brutal way. He deals with garbage collectors. The name garbage collector is brutal alone, right?
But Alpaca Linux that Dmitry today were introduced for us, it's not so brutal. It's a nice animal with
Alpaca
big eyes.
Nice animals. This is true.
So they are not brutal. So let's decide that Dmitry is quite flexible person. So Dmitry, the next question is for you, and
that's why you need to protect Alpaca. So we protect it.
Okay, there are some questions about protection actually, but I would like to start from question from your fan from the previous episode that was connected with DevOps processes. And the question is, how can Alpaca Linux benefit the DevOps processes at the company?
Well, obviously, it is much more right to use Linux, which has LTS support. In any case, right? So we have many scenarios, many advantages of small distributions, but sometimes that just don't work because we need LTS distro.
About LTS and support, does Alpaca have its own repository, and how and by whom it is supported and protected? So,
The answer is quite obvious here. Yes, it has its own repository and it's Bellsoft repository. So we manage all the packages there, physically build them, follow all necessary architectures, deliver the updates, and so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is from Discord is to Anton. Anton, where could I find the plugin which I need? For example, I've seen the documentation about cores, but haven't seen, for example, about CSRF, if I'm right in pronunciation.
Okay. Well, the list of plugins that are bundled with Ktor is in the documentation. And if you didn't find any plugin that you're looking for, it means either the project did not provide it out of the box, and maybe you will find it in some GitHub repository created by some third-party developer. But this is a good question, because this is one of the things that Ktor team is planning to have a registry of all the plugins, the standard ones by the team, and also the third-party plugins for Ktor. And it's a work in progress. It's currently not implemented yet, but this is something that the team is planning to work next year.
I got it, thank you. And the next one is for you too. Is it possible to write a Ktor application like a classic web application using an external server?
Meaning packaging it into a war and then deploying it to some application server. Yes, but this is not a very common approach. But generally, it's possible to create a web archive and deploy it to some other application server.
Okay, thank you, Anton. And the next one is for Adam. Adam, could you please tell us what aspects of evergreen development do you consider the most important, as the most important?
Most important. Yeah, if you, I mean, evergreen means you focus on some kind of standard. So in my case, I just mentioned microprofile right now. So if you do it seriously, you should just import microprofile stuff and be not depending on Quarkus, let's say. Maybe one day Ktor will also implement microprofile. So if I'm not depending on Quarkus, I could just move to Ktor and use Ktor as and even migrate to Kotlin and Ktor. Actually, not migrating, just starting the application on Ktor. This is what I would consider the most important thing. What I saw in the past, developers, for instance, in J2E time used Payara, let's say, and Java E, but they were depending on internal Eclipse packages or Jersey. So it means this is bad because you are thinking you are programming against the APIs, but even if on every server upgrade, it could break your code. So I would say, in general, what's really is consequent is, what's really important is you have to be consequent. You say, okay, if we are doing evergreen, we're doing evergreen and not, blue-green or whatever. So either we work against the standards, or we just don't do it, and we just do whatever we like. So, and what I also see, all the time in project, like, you also have the test-driven development. Everyone, have to test-driven development at the beginning, and then the end of the project, there are almost no tests. So, okay, what's the point? Would you like to write tests or not? Be just consequent. And then this is maintainable, because at the end of the day, you have to know why it is how it is. And if okay, they wanted to have a new API, whatever. I don't know. In Germany, there are lots of magazines, and what happens here in German projects sometimes, developers read the magazines, and without any reasons, they use just the recent library from the magazine and hope everything will run better. And then over time, you get the history of the magazine in your code base, and no one knows why. And this is the worst, I would say, because there is no idea or no common vision why something is like this. So be lean. Delete everything what you can, focus on standards. This is my way. So the most important thing is delete as much as you can and write simple code.
Okay, thank you, Adam. The next question is for Dmitry. Dmitry, how does Bellsoft provide painless migration of applications that work fine in the glibc world, but not work or work with problems in the muscle with world?
Well, in one of slides, or a couple of them, they contained glibc word. In Alpaca Linux, glibc is included also, exactly for that compatibility purposes. So you can easily migrate to Alpaca with glibc flavor. And
Okay.
that was one of the initial intents in this development.
Okay, thank you. And the next one, I think it's for Anton, because it connected with Kotlin. Are there any killer features in the framework except Kotlin language which distinguish it from their own kind, meaning not only in the Java ecosystem, but in general?
Killer features. Well, it started as a test bed for Kotlin language by the team to actually test the new language features and especially coroutines. So the framework kind of is designed to be asynchronous from the ground up, and I think this is like the distinguishing feature, but I am not sure if it's a killer feature because there are other asynchronous frameworks out there, and Ktor is not a unique one. We like to make it such a framework that if you want to build an HTTP app that communicates over HTTP and needs some features to work with HTTP protocol, then it would be pleasant to use. That's our kind of mission. I'm not sure if the framework developers are aiming to build some killer feature for the framework that the framework will stand out somehow. However, an interesting feature that is coming next year, I hope, is the ability to compile the application code with Ktor to multiple platforms. That would be a very different feature from what you have in any other frameworks, especially in the Java platform. And I think any other Kotlin framework doesn't do that. But again, I'm not sure. It has to come from your business requirements. Yes, I need to write the code once and then run on multiple platforms, multiple different platforms, not just operating systems. I don't think there are that many projects that need that, but it's just an interesting feature. It's something that this will be different from the other frameworks.
Okay, thank you, Anton. Dear speakers, I would like to remember that JRush is a 2 hours format, so I need to show you the last questions because we are lack of time. So there will be 3 last questions. The first one is for Adam. Adam, can you tell us about some interesting cases where the adoption of evergreen development led to great results?
To great results. I mean, great result is already when the customer is satisfied somehow, right? So this would we say the best possible case you can get, I would say, in real world. But what I can tell you that actually, let's say for Java developers, what I showed you with the web, what I get the feedback is, say, now we see the light. We don't have to learn, 50 different frameworks. We just focus on the browser, and this is for the Java developers is great because the tool, the DevDocs.io is free, and this looks like JavaDoc. So they say, okay, it is very similar to Java. I learned the browser APIs and don't have to chase the framework. So this is, I would say, the feedback is really good because it's almost Java, what I showed you earlier in the web. Regarding, micro profile, it is a little bit more religious again. And but what they also saw, I mean, microprofile was really popular because of the name, I guess. People even a few years ago thought you cannot do microservices without microprofile, which is of course completely wrong. But the name was very popular. So, but they are also pleasantly surprised that how simple actually Java EE and microprofile is. this is also one thing is, the great results for me is if developers are happy and the client is happy. And the Java E was told, no, everyone said, okay, this is a little bit complicated. And the truth is, it was fault of the architects, which created, 4 layers to fetch one object from a database. And if you did it reasonably, it was surprisingly lean. So what we had in the past and still have are small projects with a little code built on standards, and they serve well the purpose. So this is the best possible result. Lean code, almost no waste, just view annotations, convention of a configuration. This is what I like and I appreciate, because the less code you write, the less you have to migrate. So this is and maintain. And by the way, I also forgot something. No dependencies. This is actually, I know I preached for years, if you have Java E, all dependencies are forbidden. What happened right now is we get to the clouds sometimes, and if you create something like AWS Lambda and pull all the dependencies, it will start in 2 minutes, and it will break your bill. But if you have no dependencies, it will start in milliseconds or half a second. So a huge difference. So I would say no dependencies, write simple code, and satisfy your clients. And great results is probably too much.
Okay, thank you, Adam. And there is 2 last questions for Anton and Dmitry. They're quite similar, but from different channels and from different people. How do you see the future of Ktor and of Alpaca Linux? So let's start from Ktor. Anton, what do you think about the future of Ktor? Maybe you can just imagine what it will be in 3 or 5 years.
I think it will not change much from what it is right now. Without, Kotlin being adopted by a wider range of developers, I think it will stay a small framework, which is pleasant to use, but not very popular one.
So you don't believe that Ktor will be in 3 years one of the populist framework and will be in top of mind of the users?
No.
And why?
No, I don't see why it would change.
In 5 years, I would say, forget about microprofile, use Ktor.
In 5 years, it's like infinity,
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and the same question is for Dmitry. Dmitry, Alpaca Linux is quite a new product. Well, actually, there are not many users that already meet with Alpaca, but what do you think about the future of Alpaca in 3 or 5 years, for example?
In its current state, as a generic Linux for JVM that we have now and for native image that we have now, it will be probably one of visible players for Ktor, for microprofile, for everything that we run. And what I hope that we will find new ways and optimize it for new features, for new virtual machine stuff that we'll have in Java in 5 years.
Okay. I wish it will be true, and Alpaca will be really popular and useful for different users. So, dear speakers, our time is up. Thank you very much for being with us today. I have some nice Christmas gifts for you soon. The Belsoft team will contact you to clarify the information where to deliver them. And for my part, I congratulate you on upcoming December holidays and wish you a great Java experience in the next year. And thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Alice.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.